This is the next in the Patriot Minute Series. I'm Grandpa Rick. I'm going to talk about another one of the 100 miracles, heroes, the 100 heroes actually of this country that I've identified and written about. It's contained in Family Freedom Manual Series. This is Volume 3 and Volume 1. There's 2 and 4 that go with these. You can see them online. Of course, they're available on Amazon. You can link through the website. The story of Harriet Tubman, Araminta Ross, or Minty Ross, as she was born, known as Harriet Tubman. This story goes back to the days prior to the Civil War. She was a young girl trying her best to survive in a very difficult situation as a slave in this country. She was able to escape, and we know many of the history books talk about Harriet Tubman. The point I want to make about this fascinating woman was what her true motivations were, because that's been written out of the history. The story of Harriet Tubman today is one that is used to pound home the evil nature of this country because of its slavery past, at least in parts of the country. But that's not the real story of Harriet Tubman. And again, the most important elements have been taken out. They've been removed. They've been canceled from the history books. Where it is talked about what her true motivations were, they're skewed, and I'll tell you how. But Harriet Tubman escaped to the north, and she became determined. She decided that she needed to help others to escape. And to her dying day, one of her prime motivations that she cited was her faith in Jesus Christ, her belief in God, and her belief in the protection of guardian angels that helped her. She went, I think, approximately 80 times into the South to bring out slaves to help people escape. Hundreds were rescued by her, if you count the Combahee ferry raid that took place, where she led Union troops to free hundreds of black slaves. But she freed many on her own and helped others to escape, or guided them, or inspired them, giving them information that they needed so they could do this. But the thing that's changed is, if we look at her story today, and you can see this in the movie that was released a few years ago called Harriet, where it talked about her religious beliefs, and yet I cite in the Family Freedom Manual the quotes from reviewers from Hollywood that said, why in the world did they ever talk about the fact that she believed in God and that angels had helped her to be successful? Let her just be a hero as a woman alone. And Harriet said no. In fact, that was one of her prime motivators, was her belief in God and her faith that she was being helped along and able to help others. In fact, there are accounts where she would be going along at night. They're escaping at night almost always. And she would be going along a trail, and all of a sudden she would hear a voice say, stop. And she'd say, we can't go that way. And sometimes the slaves that were with her would say, well, no, that's the way we're going. We got it. No. She said, no, trust me, we've got to change. And so she'd go another route and find out later that had she stayed on that trail, there were bounty hunters, slave hunters that were waiting to arrest them. Yet that motivation, that faith that she had from an early age, is oftentimes explained by academia as, well, when she was young, as I've seen, this was one of the explanations in one of the history books. When she was a girl, she was hit in the head by a piece of steel that caused her to have hallucinations and to think she saw visions the rest of her life. That's a sad, sad thing, because our kids today need to understand the true history. They need to understand what was really going on, that there were good Christian people helping on the Underground Railroad, helping whites as well as blacks to get these slaves out, and that Harriet Tubman was a hero, but she was also a woman of faith and had a tremendous testimony from an early age. Never let anybody tell you that that was not a prime factor, and that Harriet Tubman is an example, a walking example in history of the miracles that come to those who believe and those who have had faith and courage, and to have turned to the Savior when in dire situations. As I mentioned, there are many others we can cite, and we're going to do that. But that gives, I think, our young people the true understanding, and this is, at any time in history, this is when that is needed more than ever, that spiritual connection, that connection to the divine that our children, our grandchildren need to hear, need to understand. And academia can write these things out, but we're going to put them right back in, because that's where they belong. They belong as part of this story, this history that makes up this incredible country that we call the United States of America. I appreciate your time. I'm Grandpa Rick.